following is a conversation with Armel Talla, the founder of Clips AI, a platform that automates the repurposing and distribution of long-form content into social media clips. Their mission is to improve the quality of information shared online by advancing how we create and distribute content using machine learning. Armel is also a third-year student of computer science and math at UT Austin and an intern at Google. So I invited you on the podcast because you're building a product that I desperately need, and that is the automatic creation of clips from long-form content. So can you tell us more about the idea? How does it work? How does your AI differ from competitors?
Yeah, no, first off, thank you for having me on, Lucy. It's great to talk. And I guess kind of taking a step back to understand why we started this, my co-founders and I, it's because we're podcasters as well. So definitely understand your pain. I personally don't, because my co-founder, also co-host, he was the one that actually created the clips. I was just kind of responsible for, posting them to all the different platforms, but we both hated each of those process. And I think he hated the editing and the actual clip creation part a lot more. And at the time, there wasn't really any solutions out there. We tried looking to pay an editor, but this was during around our first year of college. So you're talking like we're very broke. And if you know how much editors are charging nowadays for you to create clips, it's out of our price range. And so like we kind of didn't have an option. And so we decided to start building Clips AI. And I guess just more about the idea, our vision, kind of like our mission is a lot longer, and we can go into that later. But the vision of what we kind of see the product being right now is a simple platform where you can come on, you upload whether a YouTube link or the actual file of your video podcast, and then we can automatically take that, find you the best clips. And so what we do is we take your video, segment it, and then we rank it back, and then we rank them back to you based on which clips we think will get the most engagement. Then from there, you can do all the finishing touches, like taking a 16:9, turning into a 9:16 TikTok Reels video for that format, and then adding captions, adding all the other editing stuff that you would want to do, and then distributing all in this one platform just to keep it super simple, easy. And then our goal is that if you trust our AI, if you really start to trust our AI, then that could happen automatically. All you have to do is just upload the video, and then we'll do everything else from clipping it, distributing it, write the caption for you, the hashtag, post it at the right time. So that's kind of like the vision that we have.
That sounds amazing. In terms of the AI, how do you decide when to clip the video?
That's great. We get a lot of, obviously this is the big question, right? A lot of people are like, when do you decide to clip it? How do you pick it? Heard different things like, oh, do you wait for when there's pauses in the conversation? It's like, there's a lot of pauses.
Or keywords that get the most engagement.
Or keywords. There's heard different people trying to do those different things, but I think that for us, the way we do it, and this is kind of an algorithm that we developed in-house ourselves based on a couple of research papers that we have found over the summer, was we first take the video audio, we transcribe into text, and then we give each sentence a representation, so kind of like a semantic meaning. And then we parse through the entire transcription and look for where there's big changes in the meaning, right? And so we start by trying to find start by creating smaller clips. So these big changes, and then once you find one big change, then you find another. Everything in between is a clip. Then from there, like I mentioned, we make the smaller ones and we piece those together to make the bigger clips. So it's really based on what is being spoken in the conversation. And so right now we're in the process of just kind of like fine tuning that.
So if I'm doing a podcast like we're doing now, does it know that I'm the host and I'm the person who asks questions, right? Like, would it know that a clip would be perhaps me asking a question and you giving me an answer?
So our AI is actually really good at picking up on question and answer.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times it will catch those. But to answer your question just straightforward, no, it doesn't know whether you're the host or not. We're working on that. So that's actually really good.
But it knows what a question is, does it?
Yeah, so it understands, right? So really based on context, a question is a very clear point of like, hey, because if we're talking about one thing and then you switch to ask a question, it's a very clear breaking point of being like, okay, this is like a different part of the conversation. Yeah. But most podcasts, if they're really good, there's not too many questions. Well, not that there's not too many questions, but there are periods of times where there are changes in what the person talks about without a question being asked. So that's the part where we're still trying to really, hone in on.
How about people who have strong accent, myself included?
So
how well does it understand?
So we actually use OpenAI's Whisper model to do the transcription, and there's some troubles with that. It's great though. It's very robust when it comes to accents and even different languages. If you speak a different language, don't hold me on that. But for accents, it works very well.
Mm-hmm. How does the product work now? So you told me what your mission is. What do you want it to be? What can people do with it now?
Yeah, so we just launched it in alpha, and right now we're just focusing on the ability to segment your video into different clips, to helping you cut down the time of where you have to watch the whole entire thing, then try to decide what are clips and what are not, and just giving you back those clips so that you can just easily pick through the different ones we've made, edit them a bit, fix the start and stop times, and then you're able to download it and then kind of take it off to whatever platform you need to edit. So really just giving you back the clips you want. The next step for us is to improve where it starts and stops so that you don't have to do a lot of fixing, right? Because that's kind of the whole value proposition, is that you don't have to spend time doing that. And second is predicting. So I think our big value add that we're trying to drive here is, can we help you not only create the clips, but then give you back the clips in an order that we think will do very well, and it also learns over time based on what you like.
That would be amazing. There is so right now I spend about 2 hours or so doing a podcast, and then another 2 to 3 hours editing the podcast, and it's pain in the ass. It's a lot of work and a lot of tiny details, writing down chapters, sections, editing cameras because I have 2 views here. And there is technology that does camera switching, automated camera switching. But yeah, the clips, it's still painful. And as I told you privately, I do chapters for YouTube. And based on the chapters, I create those clips. But there's no easy way to do that. YouTube doesn't let you clip a video based on the chapter and create a separate MP4 file based on that, right? It only allows you to create a 1-minute clip, which is used for their YouTube shorts. So that's like a huge gap in the market. So many creators would love to have that. So people can now go sign up, create a clip or upload a video, and then based on that, you will give me clips. So you said, how do you know which clip is the best? Because I did sign up, I did upload a video, but I wasn't sure how your AI decided, which clip was the best, which clip was the worst.
Yeah, so right now, like I mentioned, kind of what we have out, because we do rank the clips back to you. We've gotten a lot of feedback saying, like, I think you were the one I texted this exactly, was like, it's not in order of time. So it's like, what is it? How is it ordering this? So right,
because then I have to go and listen to every single
one.
Yeah.
I know, and it's pretty annoying. That's why we're in alpha, so be nice. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no.
Please be brutal. But yeah, so right now what we're doing is we're trying to look for the clip that is the most similar to the entire video and context. So, because the idea was that a lot of the times you're posting these clips as a sneak peek into your episode, right? So you would probably want something that is the most representative of what you were talking about on the episode. So it's really, to kind of get a little bit technical, you're really kind of doing a cosine similarity. And all this really meaning is if it's really close together, then we're going to get a certain score that tells us, yeah, well, this is probably the one that's like most similar. And so then we just rank it based on that. But that isn't really driving what we think our core value prop will be. And that's actually then going, okay, this might be the most similar, but what's going to get you the most eyeballs and then drive back people to the thing? Because you can post a clip that's like, oh yeah, this clip perfectly represents what we were talking about, the core idea. But for some reason, there's this clip that's like, about something off topic, but it's so interesting that it would catch a lot of people's attention and drive more people to it. And eventually the people that really like just the entire body of work will stay.
It would be nice to create a catchy title for YouTube.
A
clickbait headline.
Clickbait, that's interesting, because we're actually thinking about, because there's ways you can do that, right? So for ourselves, like our core thing is like we create clips. So we built our algorithm in-house, and we're going to continue to like kind of develop our own model. But for other things like creating titles and stuff like that, like GPT-3, OpenAI, very robust tools to do that already. And so we're probably going to end up using that to just like create the titles. But it's interesting because we're actually talking like if you tell GPT-3 and say, hey, give me like a crazy, like the most captivating title, it'll tell you a title that's like, okay, this is true, but it's very interesting. So maybe we might have an option for that, for you to switch between just a very descriptive title or a very catchy title.
And we will talk about it later, but ChatGPT has bias, right? And so do you want this title to be super biased? Do you want it to be kind of factual? It's a good point that you made. And we will dive into it later in the podcast. But what's been the biggest challenge for you when it comes to building your product?
To be frank, it's the fact that like the learning curve to build a great product is much steeper than we had thought, that we realized. One, just a bit of our background, like obviously I'm still a college student, right? Like if you know anything about computer science and what they teach you is they teach you the core fundamentals, which is super important. I'm a big advocate. You have to learn the fundamentals before you can, build on top of that. But they don't teach you how to build products. They don't teach you how to use the current tools that are out there. So that was one thing from my side, because like there's 2 developers on our team. We have 3 total people. Just a quick shout out to my co-founders, Ben Schmidt. He's our CTO. He primarily works on the machine learning models. And then we have Vedant Nair, and he's our COO, and he's on the business, sales and marketing side. But so for Ben and I, we both just kind of had no clue. And Ben switched into computer engineering about this year. Like he's in his 3rd year. Before, he was a mechanical engineer. He took like 2 coding classes, so he got some of the basics down. But he's just a big shout out to him.
So how is he building the ML? Like he
learned everything over the summer. Like he's incredibly smart because he has such incredible focus to like tackle it, and he just loves math as well. But to answer your question though, the most challenging part was that there's so much for us to learn, and we're not in the phase where we want to raise money, nor do we feel that we want to drop out of school to go pursue this. We actually think school is an advantage, and we think that if we can really just manage our time well, we can leverage what we have on campus, leverage the classes that we're taking, and building it. But we're really viewing this stage in our journey about learning as fast as possible. So while the whole saying is like move fast, and I think I kind of get annoyed with that, because I think a lot of people just associate that with like move fast it means releasing a lot of features. But for us, moving fast is learning everything as fast as possible for 2 engineers to build a product like this. And we're exploring bringing on people, but we really care about keeping the quality of our team as high as possible. I think OpenAI talks about the talent density there, and like we want to kind of replicate the same thing.
Well said. You mentioned that university learning has a lot of advantages. Can you talk about what specific advantages it has versus learning from the internet?
I love this question because I'm actually going to write a Substack about it. I don't know when I'll release this, because you can't do everything, so writing has been hard. But it's called Your Competitive Advantages Being a Student. And I outline on there that the advantages is, number one, I think that when you're outside of school, the environment and the attitude towards learning is different. Like obviously at a startup, you have to learn a lot all the time. You have to be kind of a person that always wants to learn. But when you're in a situation where I wake up, I'm doing Clips AI stuff, I'm learning that, and then I go to class and I'm learning all day, every day, and obviously executing as well and trying to getting out features. But it's just like my brain is already trained to be in that mode. And another thing is also the classes I take, because I'm computer science, and UT Austin is one of the best schools for ML and AI. Like they offer so many classes in undergrad. I'm also be going into grad and doing more AI classes that like I get to learn about specific topics. But the thing is, my brain in class is always training about, I just heard this concept, like could it be useful for us? Right? Could it be the thing that will help us improve the quality of our clips, make it faster and better? So I think that's one thing, that you're in a learning environment. So you just it helps you learn faster, I think, in my opinion. And also, if you do it right, you can take a lot of classes that are very relevant. And it doesn't just have to be technical. It can also be like skill. You might have a gap in your skill set that you're missing. You're at school, you can go just take a class to fill that gap in. Like a lot of the things that I didn't even expect I would ever want to take was like graphic design, things like that. And another thing is, people want to talk to you. Like when you're a student, Like it's the most broken card. And even our mentor, she's a YC founder, and she told us like the one advantage you guys have is that you're a student. You can literally go up to people and ask them about, just talking about their problems or having them try the product, and it doesn't feel very weird because you're still a student, so they don't see it exactly like you trying to sell them, especially if you can put it in a way like, hey, we're just trying to learn from you, we're just trying to understand like what problems you have, stuff like that. And it's surprising just how helpful people are, because they're just very impressed. Like, to be frank, I don't think we're very far in our journey, and there's a lot that we have to do, but people are just amazed by the fact that like we are some college students that decided to go build this product, and we're like full on head on, and people are surprised when they see that we actually have a product that works and that they can use. And the last thing I'll say is that you're by talent, right? If there's a place to find co-founders, like luckily I've known my co-founders since my first year. So that wasn't much of a problem there. But if you were to look for co-founders, I think Paul Graham said this in one of his essays, that the advantage is that a lot of the best co-founders you'll have or you will meet will be in school. And so we have an opportunity right now we get to recruit right at this stage. We obviously take our time to try to find the best people. But yeah, talent is here. So it's super easy for us once we're ready to build a team that like, it's just about hitting up a couple of our friends.
Well put. Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I think it's not just about the content and the learning. It's about the community, right? Being part of a community of super talented, smart, ambitious people that, want to do great things in life, and having access to professors whom you can learn from, mentors at the university, having an email address, .edu, which increases your chances of getting a reply from industry people. And then brand, right? Having the brand associated with your name also matters. So you said that your co-founders are people that you met in your first year. I imagine that you have high levels of trust. How did you go about splitting the roles? And how do you motivate yourself to keep working on the startup?
That's a great question. And I think it's because we never thought about how the roles were kind of split. It just kind of naturally fell into place. And so a bit of context of how we met. We all play basketball. And I love basketball, like absolutely love basketball. And so we met that way. And I kind of hit it off with Ben because me and him are obsessed with self-improvement. Like our podcast, the reason why, the thing that gave birth to Eclipse AI is about us reading nonfiction books, whether about philosophy, self-help, and all the different stuff, to just kind of push people to kind of also get on the path of self-improvement. And Vedant was also just because of his competitive nature, like we would always just have the best times playing against each other. And I knew he was someone that wanted to start a company. But in terms of the roles, right? So Ben and I are both engineers, and Vedant's a business major. He's a MIS, Management Information Systems, if you know, and a little bit technical as well. He does a computer science minor. I'll give you that one V. But so for him, it was kind of clear that it was like, okay, well, you're not building, right? And so I think something that YC said is that at a startup, there's only two things you can do. Either you're building or you're selling. So it was clear that he would sell. Yeah. For us, then I think in engineering, it kind of just like was like, okay, well, Ben, like I mentioned, he's a mechanical engineer. And I think the joke in engineering, at least for me, is that anyone that actually does like all the CS majors are a lot of people chose CS because they didn't want to do computer engineering. They didn't want to do all the hardware level stuff. Ben is a type, he's like, I don't want to do CS. I want to do the lower level stuff. The track most people, when they do computer engineering, they go take the software track because they all just want to be software engineers. He's like, no, I want to know it all from the ground. I want to know from how the computer is built all the way to the software. So he's definitely more of the technical type. And he loves math, and machine learning is really just math applied. So it was very clear that like he would take on that challenge, and he wanted to. And for me, it was like, from the end of it was like, okay, well, what's left? And I think my role is to just try to help them out as much as I can. So I had to fill in wherever else it was. I didn't really know anything about building websites. I primarily do like the front end product and design. And so it was just like, okay, at the time I was like, okay, well, I just need to build this front end. So I had to learn all the web development stuff. But eventually I realized that and I think we all kind of fell in love with our roles while we were kind of discovering, because we were just first like, okay, what needs to be done and what makes the most sense, right? V, you're doing sales. Ben, you're going to build the model. You're going to learn everything to build the model in some crazy time period. And Armel, like, you need to make this website so people can actually come to it. But I ended up falling in love with it. I like primarily design. I'm a very big aesthetic person. So, and then I think each of us just really enjoy what we do. So there was never a thing of like, how do you split it? Now, your second question, how do you stay motivated? We motivate each other. It's funny enough, we have this board in our apartment. Can you guess how many?
Do you live together?
Ben and I do. Vedant not yet, but we will next year. Do you want to guess how many whiteboards we have at our apartment?
5.
Wow, 13.
No way.
13. We're an outlier here, but we love it. And I say that because
do you give yourselves weekly goals, monthly goals?
Yeah, so we have our weekly goals. We personally are very like self-motivated in that sense. But the reason I mentioned the whiteboard is because we have a board in our apartment that specifically, for at least what Ben and I track so far, is like, how well are we executing on 4 things that are super important to us? The first is, it's split into 2, health and Clips AI. So health-wise, you can break that up into 3 categories. Are you getting enough sleep every day? Are you eating properly every day? Are you getting exercise? Now, do I hit those perfectly every week? Absolutely not, but I try. And so that's one thing of like, we're competitive people, but we're not competitive in the sense that I'm trying to beat you. It's just like, I'm trying to hold myself accountable by letting you know how I'm doing each week, and I'm trying to improve my own score. It's not about competing with each other. It's about competing against who we were yesterday, right? And so that's one thing that like we're very like public about to each other, about like, where are you? How are you doing? You know, how do you feel? And I think another thing is that like we can't see a world where we go back to when we graduate that we work somewhere else at this point. I think we fell in love so much with the idea that at this point the motivation just comes very clear. In the early stages, it was a bit difficult because we were kind of having to make the transition from being like, oh, this was just an idea. But I think once we got a product out, because we had a hard deadline, that was one thing that was very big motivation. Because right now it's super easy to be motivated. Like, we have a product, we have people that want to use it, and we feel like we're onto something. So we really just like, we don't want to let this opportunity slip. But in the beginning, before we had the product and everything else, we had this exterior forcing function of, we wanted to get into this accelerator, the student accelerator ran by Joshua Bear. He's a founder of Capital Factory. They're like the center of like all startup stuff in Austin. And so we wanted to get into that because it had a lot of great resources. And so that was like a good forcing function to force us to make sure we got a product out in time, and force us to launch early. So did you want to
get into it when you identified the problem, or was it before you knew of this problem and wanted to solve it through a company?
Rephrase the question.
So you wanted to get into startups,
yeah,
and the accelerator after you identified the problem with podcasting and you had the idea, or was it before? Did you always want to work in startups and be an entrepreneur?
I think we've each always wanted to work in startups. I particularly was the one that was really pushing on startups. But the accelerator specifically, that was more of a forcing function for us to get a product out. And because once we got that product out, everything became real. And then the motivation itself was very easy because you have something real, tangible that people are using. But yeah, we first found the problem. Like, the problem came just because like we didn't think this would be an actual startup. And when I first had the idea, it was like, oh, this would be a cool side project to do. But eventually, once we tried paying an editor $400 a month, they were like, that's not enough. Like,
for how many hours?
We wanted them to create like, this was crazy. We wanted them to create like 14 clips per week per episode, because we were releasing once a week. So that's like a total of like, can I even do math? I think it's somewhere around like 50 something clips. And so, yeah, for 50 something clips a month, like that was not enough for them. And so that's when we couldn't pay them, that's when we wanted to start solving the problem. We found out about the accelerator later on.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about your experience in the accelerator. What value did they add to your company? Since you said you're not seeking funding, what else did you get out of it?
Yeah, so one of the other advantages of being a student is that you get free funding. And when I say free, in the sense that you still have to work to get it, but it's non-dilutive, so they don't take any equity.
It's a grant.
Yeah, these are grants. So they gave a $1,000 grant, which really can go a long way when you're just only covering your compute cost, your like servers, and you're not paying anyone. That was one thing. They gave $1,000, but the biggest thing was, I think, the mentorship that they connected us with. So we have 3 great mentors. I don't want to mess up I don't know all their last names. I want to get it right, but we have Jacqueline, Liz, and Marcus. And and specifically, I think one of the most impactful ones is mentor has been Jacqueline. She's just been like super responsive. She's also currently a founder, and all of them have done. All the other mentors have done really great things as well, and they've been super helpful. But I think having Jacqueline here helping us through, and she went through YC. Her company is currently doing like 20 million revenue. They've raised like 20 million. So like she's far enough from us where it's like she really has a lot more knowledge and experience, but she's not like building, Apple. She's not like at Apple, right? Where it's just like, okay, like you're just too far where we can't really get any lessons. So she's close enough to where she's been through and remembers. She
still remembers the failures.
Yeah, exactly. So that the mentorship has been incredible. It's been a like complete game changer for us.
Can you tell me some insights that you got from her?
Great question. This is the best insight. I actually recorded a podcast episode with her for our company, but she told us, I remember it was like the first, I think it was the first meeting once we've matched with them. I come in, right, and I'm like, I'm product, so I like to pick the metrics. I was like, what are the important metrics for us? And I was like, and I had just learned about North Star. Well, I've heard about the North Star metric. I've heard people say North Star metric, but no one ever actually explained like what a North Star metric is, right? It was like you always just hear this term. You're like, it's super important because it's your North Star. And so I walk in and I go in the first meeting with all our mentors. Marcus was there as well as Jacqueline and Marcus, and I go, our North Star is retention. They look at me and they look at each other and they're like, no, your North Star is not retention. They're like, sure, you can, if you have 4 users and you retain 100% of them, you only have 4 users. How are you like, you don't care about getting the other ones? And the reason was because the way Jacqueline described it to me was that your North Star is like that metric that every single function of your company is aiming to try to increase, is aiming to try to move, whether it's up and down, depending on what the metric is. And so that metric has to be something that can be grown, that can help, that you can change in a way that it actually grows your company, and it also still shows you that you're retaining, right? And there's a lot of sub metrics within that, right? And so what she said was like, you want your metric, your North Star metric, to really be based on usage. Based on the core value proposition that you are giving your users. And this metric it shouldn't be revenue, it shouldn't be retention, it's based on usage. And that's because like all those other metrics follow with it. Like your North Star is kind of it's like a leading indicator of how you're going to do revenue wise. And so for us, if we think about it, it's like, what is our core value proposition? We're Clips AI. We help you find your best clips. So we decided that it's not retention, it's the number of clips people export a week. And so that became our North Star.
Number of clips people export. So it's not the number of videos uploaded, because people can upload videos but never actually export clips.
Exactly.
It's the value you add
exactly.
when people actually export the clip
exactly.
to YouTube, TikTok, and all those. Wow, that's a great metric. What's it now? How many clips do people export?
You're getting real good insights.
Monthly. If you want to share it.
No, of course, yeah. On average, I think right now I'm even surprised this number is greater than 0. Like it's absolutely blows my mind that this number is greater than 0, because we just don't think the product is absolutely where it's going to be in a couple of months. But right now it's about 20. It's an average. We get about 20 downloads
from how many users?
From about 4 to 5 different users. Some of them are like the same users, and some it changes each week.
Are they paying users? Are they using it for free?
So currently right now in the alpha, it's free. So you can use it. If you get on the wait list, we'll send you a link to create an account. We just want feedback. We do have a little bit of funding, couple Ks, just to keep our servers running so that we can just, we're able to give it away for free. But we did get 1 paying customer. And so,
how did that come about?
And so shout out to Vedant. But I think this customer actually discovered us just like through LinkedIn or something. I think so. So
you posted on LinkedIn, hey, we're launching Clips AI, sign up here.
No, it's actually we're actually like at the point when we got them, we didn't have our marketing that was like starting to roll. And it was more that, so we launched our alpha in December, and then in January, there's this LinkedIn influencer, I can't remember the name, it's called like Pete Hugh. Sorry if I butcher your last name if you do listen to this. he made a shout out about like, 8 AI tools, right? Because, we're in a hype of AI. So everyone's talking about all the different tools that are coming out. And so he shouted us out and said, hey, there's Clips AI to help you automatically make clips from your podcast. And so that, I think he found about us through that post. Then he signed up. So the profile of this customer, they were running a podcasting agency. I think they still do at this point. But they're running a podcasting agency, and they go to different businesses and they tell them, hey, we can start your podcast. We can help you launch a podcast. We'll handle the repurposing, the social media, and all that different stuff. So you can imagine if you have 4 to 5 different clients that are all making a podcast, that's a lot of videos that you have to like clip, and especially all of them want them to be repurposed into clips. So he really found a big value add. And so in our alpha, we're not charging. So how did they end up paying? We're doing a pre-sale. So we're letting people that really found value in the product get a discount of 50% off for an entire year if they pay for their first month during this alpha. So just pay for a 1 month subscription.
So you mentioned this guy is not an individual creator. He has a podcasting agency. So your business model is not B2C. You're not selling to individual creators. You're focusing on agencies that work with creators.
Yeah, we're definitely. So we thought that B2C would be the way to go, right? And that's just because we're creators, right? We're like, oh yeah, other creators will have this problem. But what you find is that if you're not a creator that takes it serious and this is just like a hobby for you, you're not really willing to pay for a product like this. And especially if you do, you want it super, super cheap to the point where we can't stay alive as a business if we sell it at that price point. And so what we found, we started talking to more businesses, and the need is just the need for them is just much more strong. They're like, the marketing teams are usually very small. There's not a lot of people in the marketing teams. They have a lot to do. Their job is always very confusing because they don't like. One thing we've learned talking to a lot of marketing folks is that it's hard for them to be able to track their impact on revenue, right? Because at the bottom line, every company wants to know, how is this impacting revenue? And a lot of them believe in like the, repurposing the social media, and that's where the world is heading. But to track it is super hard. And so it's like, if they're spending too much time doing something, and like, they have to diversify what they do. And so the need for them is a lot stronger because they, like I mentioned, small team, don't have enough time. And so obviously, businesses, there's a much higher willingness to pay. So we are positioning this as a tool for agencies, marketing teams and stuff, but we do have a free plan for those creators. I think we still at a price point, and I believe that if you're a content creator that takes it serious, like creating content, being a content creator is a business in itself. Like when you file your taxes, you're going to file it like a business. And I know this because like I personally don't view my podcast as just like a hobby. Like we want to do this for the rest. We want to do the podcast for the rest of our lives.
What's it called? How can people find it?
Yeah, it's called the Adapt or Die Podcast. You can find us on Spotify. If you want, look up our Instagram name. I had bought this handle because I thought it was so important. Our Instagram handle is just Adapt or Die. Adapt or Die.
Adapt or Die.
Yeah, no hashtag, no dots, no underscores, just purely Adapt or Die. So super clean handle. And if you look at us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we're the cover art that has like 2 guys sitting under a tree reading a book. So yeah, you can check us out there.
I'll put it in the description.
Also, if you want to find us on YouTube, AOD Media. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So you mentioned you're targeting agencies, B2B. How do you think that you're positioning yourself when it comes to competition and large companies like Google, Facebook that are surely working on the same thing?
Are they? If they are, then...
Well, YouTube has the 1-minute clips.
They do have the clips, and that is obviously an existential threat because they have a lot of data. If people do make clips and post them as shorts. For us, one, I think the fact that we're platform agnostic. So if YouTube came out with a trimming feature, an automated one, you're only going to be able to take your YouTube video and then post that to YouTube Shorts. And if you're a creator nowadays, you know that, or even a business, you know that you can't be solely dependent on one platform. You need to diversify because they can shut you down very easily, right? So I think that's one thing that keeps us still alive. Another thing, and when it comes to actual competitors in our space, because this market is super, super competitive, like, I think something Paul Graham says is that if the problem you're solving is obvious, If a problem you're solving is not obvious, and it's a good thing because that means there's not as many people that have realized about it yet. In the early stages, like, it wasn't obvious about this problem, but now, like, it's become, like, when I tell people, they're like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, because you see so many people repurposing clips that obviously that means we have a lot of competitors. But I think that's a good thing because it tells us that we're solving a real problem. But in terms of differentiation, like I mentioned earlier, there's 3 of us, and there's 2 engineers, and so we can't do everything, and we can't be everything to everyone. So we have really been thinking a lot about what are the core problems we need to solve, and focus on and drive value there, because at the end of the day, like, there's only a few things that really matter, and we should really just focus on those things. And so we're really kind of positioning ourselves as, hey, we might not have all the, right now, because I told you the vision, but we might not have the editing features yet, the social media integrations yet, but we are flat out the best at creating clips and then helping you take that 16:9 and resizing into a 9:16 to where it's beautiful. It cuts very well. So that's the 2 things we're focused on.
So is your strategy to get as much feedback from the 5 people that are using your product right now, or is your strategy to grow?
The strategy is the strategy is neither of those. The strategy right now for us is, how can we get as much data about clips that are being made, from the context of, you have a full-length video, then you have the associated clips with it. How did those perform? How can we collect as much data as possible?
Where do you get the data from?
You can get it from the internet, but everyone can get it from the internet as well. Getting it from the internet is very time-consuming and difficult. But another thing is, our strategy right now is to actually try to get as many agencies, podcasting agencies, editing agencies, marketing agencies, to use the product and do a partnership with them, where we kind of give them a pretty generous offer, and so that they can create a lot of clips for us, because that's going to be extremely helpful for us to just like get that data from them. And it's a little bit proprietary, depending on which ones get posted and stuff like that. But the videos that don't get posted is also very useful data, because if you're going to train an AI, you not only want to know about the clips that were posted or selected, you also want to know about the clips that aren't, so the AI can kind of start to figure out, wait, what's the difference between this, or why did they choose this and not choose it. But yeah, I guess in this early stage, like, we're not worried so much about revenue growth. We're worried about really honing in on building a model that can really create the best clips, and that is a technically challenging problem, so we need kind of all hands on deck.
So what I do for YouTube, as I mentioned, is I create chapters, and based on those chapters I create clips. Can YouTube figure it out? Can they connect the dots and figure out, this is the full video and this is a clip that comes from that video? Is that something that Google is doing right now, or YouTube?
I have no clue. I have worked at YouTube TV specifically, and I can't, if I knew, I couldn't talk about it. But yeah, I have no clue.
Because there's no clear link between the full video and the clip, right? So does YouTube have data on it? Can they figure it out and then realize which clip has the most engagement and the most views from that full video?
Yeah, most definitely. Like, to have everyone on the same page, you're talking about the feature where under YouTube, a video, even as a user, you don't even have to be the creator. You can be a user yourself and you can create a clip, but that one you can just share. But for the creator themselves, they can turn that into a short, like you were saying, right? So what you really need is, you need to know about the timestamps. You need to know what is the timestamp that they pick to start and stop. YouTube is brilliant. They have a lot of great engineers. They're obviously keeping that information. And they're the one, they design their algorithms. So they know, like, can they predict? Maybe, who knows? Probably, because they have the information. They're the ones that know the algorithms and stuff like that. But would they offer that to their users? I don't know if they offer the prediction, but the automated clipping, that's something that we think about, but we don't really care, because like I said, you're not going to want to use their platform, because it's just YouTube. You can only post there. You want to post on TikTok and Instagram Reels as well. So
they have a new feature, I think it's new, called Most Replayed. So when you have a long video and you have chapters in it, it shows you which chapter was the most replayed. You can click on it and watch it, right? It's a good way for people to understand what is the most valuable part of the video. And it would be cool if it allowed me to just create a clip from the most replayed chapter, and it doesn't, and it's really frustrating.
I know, and that's even something like we can't get access to that data, right? They're not just going to allow us to do that. But yeah, I mean, YouTube is a big competitor if they do decide to go on to here, but I think that they have a lot of other problems that they got to deal with.
So there's been a boom in generative AI products, which are products that are, or it's a technology that works with large models that are able to generate original content, whether it's text, image, video, audio. What do you think about this new space? How useful will it be in the future? What impact will it have on society? Right now, the use case is kind of, fun. People create these texts and images and avatars of themselves, but it's not really that helpful. So what are the use cases, the future use cases for this new technology that will be the most impactful?
Yeah. So these large language models, and from my understanding, what they do is that they're predicting the next word, right? So as of right now, so when you give it, let's use a simple example. If you were to write a sentence like the cat jumped off then a language model would practically have to take the context of what was just said and then predict what the next word is. And so an example like ChatGPT, not knowing anything how they're made, but if you were to think about it just kind of pretty basically, the sentence, the prompt that you give is the context, and then the model then has to predict each word of like what makes sense to respond back to this. And that was just to base us all on kind of like the same basic knowledge of what it does. And so as of right now, like you mentioned, it's very good for playful things because like you don't know what it's going to spit out. It's if you ever use it for the first time, you're just like absolutely amazed. But then the more you start using it, the more you realize that it's not as accurate. It kind of gives pretty like basic stuff. You're like, oh wow, write me a whole paper, and then you realize the paper kind of repeats itself over and over. Currently, I think the best use case for this, and this was said by one of the founding fathers of convolutional neural networks. I think it was like Jan Lun. I don't know. Always messing up names. Really bad with names. But he says that these models are right now just useful as like a helpful writing tool. They can help you get started, but if you were to depend on it as just like just have it publish a paper for you or publish anything, it's gonna not be great quality. Over time, they're gonna get scary good, very, very good. And I think that what the real use case becomes is it empowers and it makes our lives easier. I think a lot of people have this fear that even when we talk to people about our product and we talk to agencies that create clips, they're fearful like this could take my job. And I don't view it that way. I think for some jobs, if it's super basic, like if you're just the one that sits down and like you go find the clips, then like, yeah, like
there are people whose job is to write articles based on tweets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think those people will be replaced by ChatGPT.
I think you can say replace, but I really think it's just going to cut down the team size. You're still going to want a human in the loop to make sure that what the AI has produced is good, right? You're not going to just completely, if you want, I guess you could like completely have one person that you run an entire company and it's just one person that like, you have the AI do everything else and you don't check it, but there's still going to be a quality issue. I don't think you can't get an AI to be perfect, and that's because humans aren't perfect. AIs are trained on the information that we give it based on human, what we've
human
bias and everything. Yeah. So an AI can definitely be more intelligent than us, but for a long time, even when they get really good, it's still going to be capped by what humans know. And so I think that it's hard to even say what the use cases are because it's everything. I think it's going to be invasive in every single industry, and you're going to see it's either going to automate a lot of tasks that are just repetitive and unnecessary. So an example, specific clips AI, like if you're the one that's just finding the clips, then your job is going to get taken away. We're going to take away your job, like, just to be frank. But if you're the editor that has to go in and you add, the touches, you make it really pop, you make it really nice, and you put your own spice to it, like that creativity side of it is still not going to go away for the human, because no matter what, creativity stems from us, and AIs are just trying to predict what we think is creative. And so that's another use case where it's either automating. I think the big thing that's interesting is the actual like assistance. I think because now you have Google and Microsoft kind of, especially Microsoft with their AI model tied into their browser, helping you browse the web, where AI now becomes your assistant to do a lot of things, where instead of you being like having to type something, you can just speak like Siri, but on steroids, and helping you navigate and helping you kind of filter out what information is important or not. That's obviously going to have a lot of ethical issues. And I think the last use case I feel like is just super interesting and super impactful is medicine. Like I think Google has done a lot of great stuff with DeepMind, with their and their model, I think AlphaFold, just making a lot of breakthroughs and discoveries, just because like there's just so much information and data that's there that like as a human you're not going to be able to process that much of it. And I think that you're going to see a lot of breakthroughs in science being made with the help of AI, being able to take the vast amount of data that scientists collect and then being able to kind of help find insights in those. I think those are the biggest ones, but there's so many that like I can't even think of them all. Humanoid robots is another one that's going to be very interesting, and that's going to be scary.
Well, that's decades from now, if not centuries, I think. But yeah, I think you mentioned the point of accuracy, and I have a statistic here that the best systems like ChatGPT produce useful information that's accurate 50% or 70% of the time. So do not trust ChatGPT, right? It's not 100% accurate. Do your fact checking, go to different sources to find the right answer. And that's something that I'm worried about, is that if you Google something, you have 10, 20 sources, and people usually click different links to actually like understand what's going on. But if you look at ChatGPT, it gives you one answer, and that makes people less likely to explore different perspectives.
I'll push back on that. Like, do people really click on that many different links to find their sources?
I generally look at like the first 5-10 results when I'm searching for something. I don't know what people do.
I would like to assume kind of the idea of people will take the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
If you click on the first link and it gives you roughly the answer you're looking for, key word here is what you're looking for, then you'll stop. You won't click on the next. And then so again, I think these models just show us the bias that we have as humans. I think to be mad at ChatGPT or be mad at OpenAI for the bias that are within these systems is kind of foolish, because these systems are just replicating what we as humans do. And so, yeah, it's definitely a concern, because you do add a more direct answer to where now people might not even think that there's an option to click on different links to explore. But I also don't think that it fundamentally changes the way people explore the internet, because a lot of people don't spend the extra time to do their research. So if you have an AI that's spitting you back out the information, then it's the same as if you just had the first link or the little text box in the beginning of it. But I think where that shifts to us as like people working AI, people developing these systems, is that, well, if we know human behavior, or humans will not actually go and really try to search for differing opinions or differing the actual facts, then we need to make sure that these systems are giving us factual information, so that at least, because you're not going to be able to control everyone or how people browse the web, but at least you're making sure that they are getting a good source of information from it, but always giving them the option to dig deeper and search.
Yeah, I think researchers found that ChatGPT prefers Biden over Trump, which is not surprising. It's just the aggregation of all of human search and intelligence. Yeah. And most people prefer Biden over Trump, so that's what ChatGPT prefers. And I think someone asked it, do you want to add something?
I want to say, I wouldn't say that most, like, if you were to look at how many people actually preferred Biden over Trump, yes, more people prefer Biden. That's why he, won and got voted in.
Or most media cover Biden more positively than Trump.
There's more information that's positive towards Biden than there is that's negative towards Trump. Because who is the demographic that supports Trump? It's a lot of people like, countryside, maybe not as tech savvy, that they're not producing as much output, as much data online. So the model didn't have a fair representative sample of the actual people that support, because not everyone is on the internet posting as much information. So I think that's like one of the reasons
mainstream media was very biased against Trump, right? So you have that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this person Googled or searched on ChatGPT or asked, how can white people avoid racial bias? And ChatGPT gave them an answer. But when he asked, how can black people or Asian people avoid racial bias, it refused to answer. Right? So it like the bias is real, and I think we have to be careful.
Yeah. And again, I'm just going to keep harping on this point. If you were to ask someone that same question, they would give you an answer for white people, but they won't give you an answer for black. Be like, how can black? Usually people will be like, I can't speak on that because that's not politically correct. And so, and obviously, you know, as you know, someone that is black, someone that is a minority, I think that someone that is a minority, someone whose best friend is white, someone whose other co-founder and best friend is Indian, like we're a very diverse team. Like we just kind of, I think people being just more honest about like the climate that we're in, and kind of taking I don't want to say sensitive, but just being real and knowing that like I don't think most people are saying things to really like hurt or offend, but they might come from ignorance. But again, my whole point was just that the bias is just representative of us humans, and so I don't think we can blame the systems, but we do need to fix this. This doesn't mean we
need to blame ourselves.
We need to blame ourselves, and we need to have a lot of introspection.
I mean, Microsoft had something similar to ChatGPT a few years ago, right? And they had to shut it down because it became racist.
Yeah,
and super bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a tweet bot or something, and but that was because like people were prompting it to just do crazy things in the same way that people are prompting ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Have you heard of the Dan thing? Like the do anything. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like some code like Dan, and it practically breaks through all the OpenAI like safety protections, and it'll start saying crazy things.
So does ChatGPT need to be stopped? Do we need to stop it? Think about next steps, regulation before we keep on advancing it?
Please, let's not put regulation on this industry.
Are you kidding? You don't want to put regulation on AI? I think
no. The more regulation, the slower innovation happens, right? I mean, But
what if it's innovation in the wrong direction?
I think as a society, I think the market will fix that. I think if it's going in the wrong direction, the market and society will generally tell those that are working on it that is not the direction we need to head towards. And I think that fix will be a lot faster than if you put regulations on it. I think one of the best things Elon Musk said was that like laws don't expire. Like, why don't they expire, right? There's a lot of outdated laws that are making medicine super expensive. And if you put regulations on it and you put the wrong regulations, right? Because we don't know what's going to be right or wrong in the future. If you put the wrong ones on it, those things don't expire. And then it takes years to like rewrite those. But if you let the market play out, the market dynamics play out, then the response time, the doing something wrong to then getting a quick response back is a lot faster. Like it's obvious right now. ChatGPT is biased. Like people in OpenAI are getting a lot of criticism. They don't like that. They're getting the feedback straight directly from society to tell them like that is not the direction or the way we want it to be, and they're gonna work to improve it, right? And so I think that if you put too much regulations on a space like this that's moving so fast, one, a lot of our regulators just don't even understand this tech to be able to write proper laws for it, and two, they're just gonna hurt and slow it down. And if we let our competitors get ahead of us in AI, then it's really going to be scary for us. And also, you can't stop it. It's here, and it's going to keep moving regardless of what we want to do about it. AI is here to stay.
I'm with you on the law expiration. I think laws should expire. They should have a useful life of, I don't know, like 10 years.
Like, yeah, go back and like revisit them.
Decade. Yeah, but I definitely think that there has to be AI regulation. And specifically what I'm worried about is deepfakes, right? You scroll on social media and you see fake videos of people, of Joe Biden, of politicians, of public figures saying things that they never actually said.
Yeah.
You hear fake video, fake images, and I think that's dangerous to democracy, and that's dangerous to how we conduct business. Don't you think that there should be some kind of labeling, which actually is a law in Norway? In Norway, if you're posting a picture or a video that has been in some way edited, you have to put a label on it, right? So there's a law in Norway that actually bans people from posting photoshopped images without having them put a label on it, which I think is good. Don't you think that something like that is necessary?
I agree with you. I do think like for those necessary ones where you are pretending to be someone else or making deep fakes, like I don't know exactly because I'm not a lawyer or in law, but I feel like those would fall under laws that already exist because that's like violating things that kind of already exist. But to be on to more specifically on the example you brought of Norway, I think that's a great idea. And I heard that they're working on watermarks, like invisible watermarks, so you can be able to tell, like you can have another system check, was this AI generated?
That would be amazing.
Right. So, and it's things that you might not be able to see as a user, but the companies that are displaying this stuff, they'll be able to build systems around it that can check for this like hidden watermark. I think that's a huge thing if we can get those out as well, just so like like what is AI written content. And another interesting thing to think about, if the internet just starts getting flooded with AI content and we train AI on the information that's on the internet,
we're screwed.
What happens? It's like, I don't know. That's why I think it's so important that a human always has to be in the loop. Or else it's just going to be AI learning about AI, and then it's just going to further expand the bias.
Yeah, we need to make it easier for people to recognize what's real and what's not, and that's currently not being done. Do you think AI has passed the Turing test?
100%.
Which is a test where if you have a conversation with AI, if you passed it, that means you wouldn't know that it's AI. You would think that it's a person.
AI has passed a Turing test for a minute now. It's been it's definitely way past the Turing test, and I think a very clear example that it has was, I don't know if you remember, the Google employee went on the news and said, I think Google has a sentient AI.
Yes, it was a year ago.
It was a year or two ago, and it was because they were interacting with Google Lambda, the large language model that's behind Bard. And so they thought the AI was sentient. They thought there was this AI really has a conscious mind, and it's like responding back to me and talking the same way that if you use ChatGPT, the way you can talk to it, it's really like, you're like, dude, this could be a person. And if you use Sydney, I've heard some stuff about Sydney. That's the AI that's integrated. That's what they call the AI that's integrated into Bing and Edge. Even responds back with emojis, which is funny. That like, you're like, is this like just a kid texting me? But so yeah, it's definitely passed the Turing test.
In a way, Sydney is like the average human being that uses the internet.
100%.
Right?
Again, like in an AI, it's to not to simplify it, but like the AI is really just the average of the data that it sees, and so.
100%. What are your opinions on the influencer culture? Like for a long time, I felt very negatively about it. I felt a lot of influencers had a negative impact on society. They were making people spend more time using phones and computers, watching stupid videos, buying things they didn't need, worrying about their appearance too much. They were virtue signaling in many ways about climate change and so on. But then I realized that influencers can have a positive impact on society, which is what we are trying to do, I hope. So what are your perspectives on the influencer culture?
I think I mainly agree with you. I want to say as well, like everyone listening, again, I'm a third-year college student. Like, I don't know anything. I'm talking from all the stuff I've read, learned about so far. So take what I say with a grain of salt. I am an influencer, obviously with the podcast, but I've also been posting on TikTok. Have 28,000 followers there, 1 million likes on my page. And that was all me. But I like to say I'm an educational influencer. I've just been documenting life as a computer science student, my journey through it all. And I think I do agree. There's a lot of just information and stuff out there that's just bad and boring. But I just really believe if you were to take those things away, the same people would still be doing the same thing. People would still, I want to say this in a nice way, but kind of not spend their time as wisely as they could by watching a lot of junk content. Whether that's, if they're not doing it on YouTube, watching those influencers, I don't know, go back like 50 years, they're probably watching TV of like some shows of like game shows and stuff like that isn't as helpful for their lives, and they're just sitting on the couch watching TV. So we've went from sitting on the couch watching TV to like sitting on your bed watching YouTube, sitting on your phone watching your screen watching a YouTube video. So I think that the impact of it, the negative impacts of it, is just from, again, us being humans, and that what will, majority, or what will a lot of people do regardless, right? But on the point of positive impact, I do think because of how easy it is for more people nowadays to become influencers, like me and you, like there's a much greater chance that there is people out there that just want to share good information. I want to share information about how can you get better, how can you learn, how can you keep an open mind about things, and like the new modern day influencer and all the technology has come to be has allowed us to actually kind of open up the floodgate of influence. So overall, I think it's more positive, primarily because I think that the negatives would have always been there, but there's bigger upside because now anyone can be an influencer, which means there can be more people like us, like all the other great educators out there online that are helping. And so overall, it's a positive in my opinion. And maybe I'm biased because for Clips AI, if we get more people to create content, then, we can, really fulfill our mission.
No, I'm with you on that. 50 years ago, it was the elite who was controlling distribution of information, TV, radio, media. And now there's no control. It's decentralized. Anyone can have a voice on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So it's great from that perspective. Do you think that TikTok should be banned in the US? A lot of people have raised this up, and UT, University of Austin, actually banned TikTok on their internet server, right?
Yeah, they're stopping me from recording my day in the lives. No, I'm kidding. I don't do those as much. That's a great question. I think it can't. TikTok will if you were to ask a question, or the way let me answer this. Will TikTok actually be banned from the US? Will there no longer be a TikTok in the US? No, absolutely not. You would have I think you would have an uproar of my generation, our generation, just being what the heck? You can't do that. There's people that are making they're living, their whole entire life is based around them creating content on TikTok. So to do that would be, you would send the nation, about a third of the nation, in just havoc. So what's more likely going to happen is the US version of TikTok is going to get bought out by a US company. And I think that this should happen. It 100% should, because we don't really understand really what's going on when it comes to national security and all the threats that there is. But we've just talked about how AI is going to advance, but we haven't even touched on, because I think a couple of days ago, one of the co-founders of Palantir, he actually lives out in Austin. He came to UT to talk, and he was
Joe Lonsdale.
Yeah. And so he came to UT to give a talk to all the, it was hosted by this dude named Corey, whatever, and they do Z Fellows, a pretty cool thing. But so he came to UT to talk, and he talked about the defense, what's happening in the defense industry. And if I had learned this that day, because I didn't know, once Palantir's offering is an AI that can help you know when it's the right time to do military stuff. When is it the right time to nuke this place at this time or this location? And so that's in a very extreme context. You're okay, how is TikTok going to help, China be able to do something like that? But I give that example more to say that this data can not only be used to serve you better content and make corporations money, but it can also be used as intelligence for our national competitors, international competitors, and stuff like that. So
it could serve you propaganda,
and
maybe it's happening already.
Sway elections and all that stuff. So that information should really be in the U.S. and should not be going back to China, because we don't know. ByteDance might say, hey, yeah, we don't let the CCP look into the data. If CCP wants to do it, they will do it, or ByteDance will not exist anymore. So I definitely agree that I think I'm on the side that TikTok should be bought out by a company in the US, and that data should just be held to US.
But I think the majority of TikTok is owned by Oracle, which is a US company.
It's actually, that deal didn't go through.
Really?
It hadn't gone through. I think, because Trump wanted that deal to go through, but it never happened.
Okay. Yeah, I have to say I do use TikTok, but I don't use the algorithmic feed, the For You page. I only use the following because I optimized it for historical content, right? So I follow about 10, 20 accounts that post very interesting history video. There's a guy in Egypt that posts like about the pyramids. There is a girl in Britain that posts about English history, right? So the For You page, or the following page for me is extremely educational, but the For You page is terrible. It's a shithole. Yeah.
It can be. It's interesting because I would say that those algorithms have gotten really good at knowing what you like. So if you went
which is terrible. I don't want to see what I like.
Because there's some things that you want to change, right? So it's like, I don't want it to keep serving me the things of the habits I'm trying to break.
Because it focuses on your primitive brain, and a lot of people like violence. And what I would see on my For You page is like animals being eaten alive.
I think that's just you.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to explore that part of me. I just want to go on my following page and see history videos.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know for mine, it's a lot of basketball and comedy, but a lot of stuff about startups and the economy and stuff like that. But yeah, it's very scary, very scary.
So we can't prevent people from, consuming video, consuming short form content. What do you say about the shortening attention span of our society, where, movies and Netflix is becoming obsolete because people don't have the attention span to watch a 2-hour movie without checking their phones? Where are we getting with this?
I think what it's done for us is that it's increased the bar for those longer form of content. Because you didn't have the option. If you wanted to watch something that would entertain you, right, or just, kind of bypass the time, you had to dedicate like 10 to 15 minutes at least. YouTube introduced that. Or before then, you had to watch a movie that was like an hour or something long, or or you would have to go home and watch a TV show and wait for a cable to show up, or so you had this longer form of content where, it didn't have to be that great. The content didn't have to be really good in order to give a person a reason why I'm going to watch this entire 15-minute video or something, just to keep it on the example of YouTube. But when short form content comes out, then this is the thing of our mission of like, we want to help improve the quality information that's posted on the internet, because when you're competing for attention, there's more competition for attention, and competition in anything that increases the bar for what actually wins. And so therefore, I think that the short form content has definitely hurt our attention span, for sure. Like, you could probably find some science to back it up. Do I know that 100%? I don't know, but I feel like there's probably pretty clear correlations between it. But I think if you to look at it on the positive side, it says that, because I don't think people are going to stop watching Netflix movies. People aren't going to stop watching movies. People aren't going to stop listening to podcasts. I know I listen to so much podcasts, but what it means is that if you want people to listen, your hour long of podcast better be quality, or they could go either watch something else, or they could watch a bunch of short form clips of a podcast that only gives them back the best parts of it. So I agree with you that it does hurt the attention span, but I think from the creator's point of view, it makes you have to increase the bar, increases the bar of content you have to produce.
So difficult. No, I mean, movies used to resemble real life if you think about it.
Yeah.
They were slow, you wake up, you have breakfast. And now movies are so fast. Like, it's action, blowing up, lots of CGI. And that just reflects what we're used to, right? Like, attention span, something has to be going on at all times in the movie.
Is that... I guess the interesting question that we have to kind of explore is that, like, what are the negatives of that? I know we say it like, oh my God, attention span is shorter, and I feel like it, that's probably something bad, but it's like
thinking.
Thinking.
Yes, I think people are not able to think anymore. They need stimulation at all times, and they're not able to be with themselves and with their thoughts and consider something properly before making a decision. Right? And that trusting AI is also an issue, where we're losing our free will to AI. Like, you trust Google Maps now more than you trust your own instincts, and that could be an issue.
I agree. That's a great point. I think the example Google Maps is not a good example, because I definitely trust Google Maps more than my own knowledge of navigating. But I do get the example you're saying, in that the more we start to trust these systems, the less people think for themselves. And the less people think for themselves, the easier it is for things like propaganda and misinformation to really have an even more severe impact, which is definitely scary. And it's things that I think how quickly technology has moved, it's caused so much change and so much like things that we just didn't expect to happen, or like the results or the impact of it, that like we haven't really had time to think it through as a group of people to understand how we should move. And I think we will. I'm a fan of humans, I think we will figure it out at some point, or we'll end up like the Romans.
Oh God, no. I think we'll end up in a simulation if we're not already in one.
I think we're in a simulation as well.
We are.
I think so. Have you heard of the Neil deGrasse Tyson? He explained this like crazy to me. He was like, or the way he explained it blew my mind. Because at first he was like, okay, what's the probability that we're a simulation? Okay, well, if you're a simulation, then that means, or like if a society comes up with a simulation, then eventually at some point that society within that simulation will come up with their own simulation if you just let it run. And then that simulation will come up with its own simulation. And so there's like an infinite amount of simulations that could be, and only one real world. So that means like the percentage that the probability that we're a simulation is like 99.9999 something percent. But
if you think that we will ever get to the point of having super intelligent computers that
yes, I do think we will get there. But the other part of it was like, but if you actually think about it, it's actually 50% that we're a simulation, because right now we don't have the ability to create the simulation, meaning we're either the first or we are the most recent simulation.
But why would it have to be 50%?
Because you can't be one of the simulations in between, right?
But how do you know that it's 50% likely?
Well, because you only have two options. You're one of two.
No, you have three options.
What three options?
Well, eventually we will get to the point where we will build supercomputers, but we will not use them to create simulations, which is what Nick Bostrom laid out in his simulation argument. But he doesn't assign probabilities, right? Like it's not equal probability for each scenario.
Yeah, it's conditional.
So you actually don't know
what it is. Yeah,
what it is.
That's true. That's very true. That's an interesting point I never thought about. To keep it simple for people, 99 or 1/2, much easier. But if you were to go down into the details,
actually there's 4, because the other one is that we never come up with super intelligent computers, and so we will never be in a simulation. We're not in a simulation.
That's
right.
You know what? To tie
so
this,
we're not, or we are not, but we will. We are in the real world, but we will eventually come up with simulation. Mm-hmm. We are in a simulation, and then the fourth one is we are not in a simulation because we will build supercomputers, but we will not choose to build simulations from them.
Yeah, this is. Back to my
complicated.
Back to my probability class.
Yeah.
But to kind of tie it back into AI, I think something that makes me really excited just working in this industry, in this space, was how much I really like, how much of like the breakthroughs in AI came from kind of taking ideas from neuroscience and understanding the brain. But I think that AI will help us understand a lot about actually what consciousness is. Especially if our goal is to build AGI as an AI community as a whole, maybe that's not the goal of every person in the AI community. Then that's what's really interesting to me, is understanding how we think as humans by building artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Last thing I wanted to cover is your experience at Google. So you've done 2 internships in the software engineering division at Google, and you're about to do your 3rd one this summer. What did you learn from your experience? How was working at Google? Is the culture as unproductive as people make it so through these TikToks? I wake up in the morning and then I have breakfast and then I do a meditation class, right?
Yeah. I guess what I learned is that I was a freshman. So I got the internship after my freshman year of college. So I did it the summer in between freshman year and sophomore year, my first one. I was on Google. I was on the search team. I can't go into details about things because I don't want to get sued, and I want to keep my job for the summer just so I can pay my rent. But what I learned was that I think first being a freshman and like only taking computer science, then understanding what it actually means to like build like just build things for users.
Yeah.
Not directly that I was ever interacting with users, but actually taking my knowledge of what I'm learning in the theoretical sense and then applying that to solve problems. Another thing I learned about was just how much it's kind of like what a real structure of an engineering team looks like. You know, you have to do like code reviews, and also that this was the biggest lesson. I was kind of coming up with all these different ones that kind of buy me time. But the biggest lesson I learned was you first have to really think and design the solution and think about the problem. But I think as engineers, you're already given what the solution is. But when it comes to actually now implementation wise, it was the having to stop and say, hey, okay, let's think about the different approaches we can take. What are the trade-offs that we make if we want to implement this feature this way, or we want to implement this feature that way? That was the first time I ever had to do that because in classes, you know, you're just given an assignment. You're like, all right, I'm going to just go code away. But in the real world, you have to make those trade-offs, and there's a lot of different opinions and people that are going to give you feedback on it. It's a lot more collaborative compared to like CS courses or just school in general, where people are like competitive. Maybe they don't want to share the way they think about things. But I think that having a more design approach to things and having to think through the solution, the implementation before you actually go do it was very surprising. To answer your second question of what was the culture like? Honestly, Google, one of the best, like, if I wasn't a super ambitious person and like wanted to start my own, and when I say super, I think you can be ambitious and still want to work at Google and go up the corporate ladder and stuff like that. But if I didn't want to start a startup, I probably would work at Google. If I didn't want to be in the world of startups, if I wanted more job security, right? I think that's why you go work at Google, is like you get to have impact, you get to have job security. And
do you actually get to have impact though?
It depends. It depends at the scale you get to. If you can get to working on more, like you can work on projects that, okay, so you can look at it this way. You can have impact, right? It won't take you like 50 years or 10 years to get into some senior position where you actually have impact. You can work on a project that it might not be a very important project to Google, but not important to Google is still like 10 million users. Like it's like 10 million users that you can reach from your project. So you can have impact in that way. But how much impact do you really have towards a company's success is a whole different thing, and it's not as much unless you're working on the really core stuff. But culture-wise, I'll get on the good and the bad because I want to give them their credit where it's due. I think culture-wise, out of all the big tech companies that I've heard of, I haven't worked anywhere else. Google has like the best culture. It's super friendly. People there were just like willing to help you. You could book a calendar time with almost anybody. Not Sundar. I tried. And I think just that environment of like, you know, there are some of the smartest people are there. Like, you know, you can make an argument for that. And you know, like some of the smartest people are there, but they're all super kind. They're all super helpful. And productivity wise, as an intern, obviously I didn't have like the most intense work and stuff. But I can see how you aren't as productive. They do pamper you. I mean, you get free breakfast, free lunch, free dinner. You can live your entire, you can go to the gym there. You can shower there. You can, you know, drop off your kids in the daycare. You could, so there's so much stuff that are there that I guess the way Google probably looks at it is that maybe you're less productive in like the moment by moment because there's all these shiny stuff to do. but you stay longer. So you end up doing the same amount of work.
Retention.
But I think another thing is that all those things get boring really fast. Besides the free food, you can never be upset with free food. All those things, all the fancy things get really boring. In terms of the culture, like it's surprising that like the problem with Google isn't the people or like people being unproductive. It's just the symptom of being a big company. The bureaucracy. There's so many processes. If you want things to go through, you have to talk to like 15 different teams. You have to coordinate across so many. I had to do that for my second project because my intern manager both of my intern managers ended up changing teams. So I had to find a new team, and the project I had was being owned by a different team, and I had to do all this cross coordination stuff. And they're busy. They have things that are blocking them. There's all these different things that I don't think it's the fault of those that are working at the company. I think that it's over time as companies scale and they get bigger, you building processes, but kind of like laws, these processes are never checked or expired. So therefore, like you end up being slow and you're not as productive and you have a lot of time to kill. Therefore, you can record a day in a life.
Very well said. Google, listen. Would you go work for Twitter, where the culture is the complete opposite of Google
now Twitter now, yeah.
You sleep in the office. I think they converted conference rooms into bedrooms.
I definitely
to make people more productive.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if I wasn't working on Clips AI and I didn't want to do this full time once I graduated, I would go work at a startup 100%. It's so interesting that people my age, like I think I also thought this way, so I can't even like say that, oh my God, it was just, you don't see the way, because I thought this exact way until I really started diving into the world of startups. But in the early stages of our career, like we want to optimize for learning. We don't like optimizing for a salary is great. And I think, depending on your situation, right, do what's best for you. But if you are in a fortunate position where I'm even taking out student loans and like, we work in tech, like you're still going to get paid a salary that's way above the average in the US average, and you're still going to be able to pay off your debt at some point. So that's what I tell myself, right? But I think that if you optimize for learning in the early stages of your career, then you will be perfectly fine in the future. Like the money will come. And that's what startups give you an opportunity to do, is that you are forced to do so many different things because your job isn't defined. There isn't all these processes, this one specific role for this one specific thing. Like at a bigger company, like they have to do that. Like that's just the way it is once you get that big, right? Because I mean, example, Google has a bad performance with Bard. Their stock tanks. They lose 100 billion in like market cap, right? So they have to move a lot slower. But at a startup, you move so much faster, you learn so much more, and that in the long term of your career, you just get out. And I think that if I wasn't going to work at Eclipse AI, and now my understanding of startups, I would. And like what I do is anyone that talks to me at school, I push startups like you can never. I'm always telling people either, I don't just say go start your own. I say like, try to solve a problem. But if you don't have a problem to solve, like go just work at a startup, go intern there. So
Agree. Well said. So if Google comes to you and they offer you, 50, 100 million for Clips AI, do you accept? Is your goal to get bought out by one of these large companies?
For our future investors, I can, they probably would like that. But no, the goal isn't to get bought out, really. If we get a really great deal on the way, then definitely we'll consider it, but it has to be a really great deal. Yeah. But our goal is to eventually become not just Clips AI, but to become Kai. And what Kai stands for us is, at least right now, and I think this name will be confirmed soon, is continuously advancing intelligence. So we view ourselves as an AI company first, and we really are inspired by what OpenAI has done, and we kind of like want to help and contribute in the world, and like whether that's definitely helping build great products and build great services that other companies can use, like our APIs and stuff, to build things for themselves, but also to like open source our research, open source some stuff, like provide back to the community, because that's like really the only way that we're going to innovate is by keeping things open as much as you can, right? But obviously you still have to keep a business, so there's conflict there at times. But yeah, that's our longer term goal, is to become Kai, not just be this one platform of automating social media distribution, but doing a lot of other stuff, and still in the space of content creation and information distribution and sharing.
Well said. In the last minute or so, can you pitch Clips AI to the audience? What do you want them to know? How can they sign up?
Yeah.
Why they should sign up?
Clips AI, we help creators and businesses take long form content, video or audio, and automatically turn them into social media clips. Why you should test us out and try is because we are really focused on solving what we believe to be the two core problems, and that is, one, finding the clips that you're looking for, because we know it's super time consuming, and a big thesis is that you oftentimes don't actually know which clips will do well, so we want to help you find the clips that will do well. Second is then taking that and resizing it to a different platform. This process is just as tedious, because I know you're going to take the 16:9 video, you're probably going to want to post it on TikTok, but it's not going to do well unless you make it 9:16. So following after we've really nailed down on clipping, while we're working on that, is to come out with an automatic resizing where the AI will snap to whoever who's talking in the frame. And so we're only focused on those two things. We might not have all the other nice bells and whistles, but I believe that the quality of that will allow you to really stand out in this very competitive, in this world where you're competing for attention. And we will just want to give you back time where you can focus on creating quality content.
Do you have social media? What's your website?
Yes, check us out on Clips AI. Check us out at clipsai.com. You can follow us on Twitter at clipsai.hq, Instagram clips.ai, TikTok clips.ai. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter at Armel Talla, and I'm always on LinkedIn as well. You can just look me up.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Armel. It was a great discussion.
This was amazing. Thank you, Lucy.